when a vegan family enrolls their daughter in a veterinary school. Her initial innocence collides with brutal hazing rituals. However, her journey takes a dark and unexpected turn when forbidden desires sparks her hunger within. Hello, welcome back to I Am Movies. Today we're looking into the 2016 French film called Raw. But before we jump into the details, make sure to show us some love by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Now let's get right into it. The movie begins when a teenage girl, Justine, who was raised in a vegetarian family, gets admitted into a veterinary school. The same school where her elder sister Alexia attends, and where their parents first met as veterinary students. As a first-year student, Justine's parents drive her down to the school, and upon arrival they wait for Alexia to come pick her up, but Alexia never shows up. Justine sets off on her own, and later that night, she decides to get some rest, which is soon cut short by loud bangs coming from inside the dormitory. Shortly after, Justine meets her roommate Adrian, who barges into her room and asks her to get up quickly, as he hands her a ski pole. However, the senior vet students soon barge into the room, turning everything upside down in an effort to force every freshman to partake in an initiation ritual, welcoming them. The fresh students are lined up in a row and later made to crawl like animals as part of the ritual. Shortly after, the ritual evolves into a party, and they all get involved. Meanwhile, Justine begins to look for Alexia in the partying crowd. Now, while searching, she finds out that Adrian is gay. Disappointed, she continues to search for Alexia, and later finds Alexia dancing. The two sisters hug each other, and Alexia, seeking fresh air, leads Justine out of the party to a dark and isolated basement to show her pictures of old students of the school who participated in the ritual in freshman year, including one with their parents bathed in blood. The next day, the fresh students get drenched in animal blood according to the initiation rituals and are later forced to eat raw rabbit kidneys. However, Justine refuses to partake in this part of the ritual, stating that she's a vegetarian. They refuse to believe her, prompting her to insist on calling Alexia to testify to it. However, when Alexia is asked if she's a vegetarian, she says no, and subsequently forces Justine to eat the meat, stating that it is for her own good. Later that night, Justine wakes up to find itchy rashes all over her body, and she soon begins to scratch it hard, hoping it will come off, but she soon falls back to sleep. The next morning, Justine decides to visit the school clinic, and the doctor there diagnoses her with food poisoning, and later recommends a cream for her rash. The same day, she gets picked up by a senior student for not wearing the required dress code for fresh students, so later that day, she visits Alexia to borrow clothes and shoes. However, Justine also uses the opportunity to blame Alexia for her rashes, stating that Alexia should have defended her. Shortly after, Alexia hands Justine the item she came for and kicks her out. The next day during lunch, Justine begins to have cravings for meat as she watches Adrian pick a piece of burger while serving his meal. Feeling ashamed to openly pick one, Justine decides to steal one and hide it in her lab coat. However, the cafeteria worker spots her and subsequently exposes her. After this failed attempt, Adrian decides to take Justine on a late-night trip to a gas station, where he buys her a piece of beef shawarma to quench her cravings for meat. However, Justine doesn't seem satisfied, as Adrian almost caught her eating raw chicken meat the next morning. Later that day, while getting questioned by one of her professors, Justine begins to chew on her hair as her craving for meat increases. Afterwards, she throws up a huge chunk of her hair which she had swallowed over time. Now scared, Justine decides to confide in Alexia, and soon goes to speak with her, but Alexia soon finds her busy. Later that night, the two sisters hang out at a rooftop. However, Justine fails to reveal her true predicament to Alexia, as the two get engrossed talking, and Justine later spends the night in Alexia's room. The next morning, while brushing, Justine finds the same body cream she was given at the clinic in Alexia's shelf, which means Alexia might have the same issues too. Later in the night, Alexia attempts to give Justine a clean bikini wax, but at some point, the wax soon gets stuck. In an attempt to remove it, Alexia gets scissors to cut the wax off. However, Justine protests the use of scissors on her private area and immediately kicks Alexia away, accidentally cutting her finger off. On seeing her finger off, Alexia passes out, and Justine immediately calls emergency. The emergency guys promise to arrive in 15 minutes, asking Justine to put the severed finger in ice. With this, Justine quickly picks the finger from the floor before their pet dog. Quickie eats it, however. Justine can't find ice in the fridge, so she holds it in her hand. Now, while watching blood drips from it, something unexpected happens. Justine's cravings for blood and meat soon take over her appetite, and she begins to lick the blood. Subsequently, she begins to take little bites, but soon finds herself eating the whole finger. Alexia wakes up shortly after in shock, seeing her sister munch on her finger. However, after Alexia's treatment, their mother tries to get the doctor to place Alexia in rehab, but Justine yells at her to let Alexia be, and an argument ensues, prompting Justine to leave in anger. The next morning, on their way back to the school, Alexia takes Justine to a deserted road where she orchestrates an accident, leading to the death of 2 people. Shortly after, Alexia walks up to one of the dead guys and soon begins to lick his blood, proving to Justine that she's just like her. Justine, however, pulls Alexia away, forcing her to spit the blood out. However, Justine tells her that she did it for her, stating that she needs to learn. Justine walks away from the scene in an attempt to overcome her cravings for meat and blood. The next day, while preparing for a practical session, Adrian asks Justine to help him with his lab clothing, but as soon as she gets close to him, she begins to lust after Adrian's flesh, and this craving continues into the day as she watches him play football shirtless. Later that night, Justine finds Adrian and Alexia playing a game together, but as soon as she steps in, Adrian gets up to leave, telling Justine that he is going to attend a lit freshman paint party. With this, Justine joins Alexia to continue playing the game. Shortly after, Alexia suggests that Justine is losing weight, stating that she needs to eat, obviously referring to meat and blood. However, Justine tells Alexia that she doesn't want to be part of whatever she's doing. After a while, Justine goes to bed, but finds it hard to sleep as she begins to have terrible nightmares. With this, Justine decides to go to the party, but as soon as she steps in, she gets drenched in blue paint as part of the party ritual. Afterward, Justine gets paired with a guy drenched in yellow paint, receiving instructions that they both get intimate till they both turn green. Now, while kissing, Justine begins to have her usual cravings and ends up biting off a part of the guy's lips, which leaves the other party guests in shock, as they watch the guy bleed from his mouth. After this, Justine goes back to her room to get a shower. While showering, Justine finds a chunk of the guy's lips and proceeds to eat it. Shortly after getting out of the shower, Justine confides in Adrian about what happened, and they both end up having intense sex. During this affair, Justine begins to crave for Adrian's flesh. Struggling to control it, Justine decides to bite her own arm and bleeds profusely as she attains orgasm. The next day in class, Adrian shows Justine a message from Alexia, asking her to check her phone. Justine checks it and soon realizes that Quickie has been put down because of the finger-eating incident. However, this doesn't bother Justine much as she asks Adrian how Alexia got to have his number in the first place. However, Adrian ignores her. Shortly after, Justine realizes that Adrian had been having affairs with Alexia before, feeling betrayed and used. Justine begins to yell at Adrian, and Adrian angrily storms out of the class, stating that he's gay after all. At another party, Justine gets intoxicated to the extent that she begins to touch random people. After a while, she comes across Alexia, who then takes her to a morgue where she briefly passes out on the dressing table. The next day in class, Justine notices that people are staring at her, with disgust but doesn't know why. After the class, Adrian pulls her to a corner, showing her a video where Alexia is taunting her in front of other students to take a bite from a corpse in the morgue as she crawls on the floor like an animal. After watching the embarrassing tape, Justine angrily asks Adrian where he was when it was happening as she furiously barges out to confront Alexia even as Adrian tries to stop her. Justine pulls Alexia's hair, and they both begin to fight. As they continue to fight, Alexia bites off a portion of the skin on Justine's face and walks away. Justine runs after her, and they begin to bite each other aggressively. After a while, some students try to pull them apart, and in a twist of event, they eventually end up helping each other to Alexia's room, where Alexia helps Justine treat her face. The next morning, Justine wakes up in bed beside Adrian and watches him sleep like a baby. However, Justine soon discovers that there is blood under his blanket, and as soon as she pulls it up, she soon realizes that Adrian is dead. With most of his right leg eaten and a stab wound on his back, Justine immediately knows Alexia is responsible for his death. So Justine picks up the murder weapon to hurt Alexia, but changes her mind after she finds Alexia, who is now drenched in Adrian's blood, in a state of regret. With this, Justine picks Alexia up and helps her to wash off the blood from her body. That morning, the news of Adrian's death spread throughout the school and students gathered to mourn him. Alexia eventually gets sent to serve time in jail while Justine gets sent back home. One day while the family is having their vegetarian breakfast, Justine's mother notices that Justine has not been eating her food. With this, she instructs her to make sure she finishes her food this time before leaving the dining table. As Justine's mother leaves, her father makes a disturbing revelation, stating that the incident that happened is neither Alexia's fault nor Justine's. At this point, Justine stares at him with shock, and he further explains to Justine that when he first met her mother, she didn't want to be with him even though she claimed he was her best friend at the time. He reveals that he couldn't figure out why she'd rejected him for so long until they had their first kiss, showing Justine a scar on his lips. Afterward, he opens his shirt to show her a more disturbing detail of his chest revealing missing chunks of skin, and urges Justine to find a solution. You will agree with me that this story mixes elements of horror, psychological thrills, and family drama, creating a creepy vibe. Justine's struggle with her weird cravings, the strange things her sister does, and the surprising family secrets all make the story interesting. What's most noticeable is how the movie makes you feel uneasy at every point, making you question what's right or wrong. It's like a deep dive into human nature and instincts, leaving you with a weird feeling and lots to think about. If you'd like to see us recap any other movies or topics you have in mind, just drop a comment and let us know. And don't forget to hit the like button, share this recap, and subscribe to stay updated for the next one. Until next time.